Hello all of you beautiful people, Jules here for WhatCulture.com, and when it comes to the Green Lantern Corps, there is one thing above all else: you must respect the ring. The Green Lantern ring can literally make anything that the wielder can imagine, and is limited only by their willpower, and because of this, different people wield it in different ways. But here's the question: who is the strongest Green Lantern of them all? Well, that might be up for debate, but we definitely know 10 of the most powerful, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are the 10 most powerful Green Lanterns. Number 10, Jessica Cruz. Now, if this list was about the best Green Lantern characters, then Jessica would definitely not be at the bottom. But you know what? That's a story for another day. Jessica Cruz, after watching all of her friends die horribly at the hands of a mob when they accidentally stumbled across them disposing of a body, is stricken with intense anxiety that leaves her unable to leave the house most days. But when she proved herself against the fear-feeding power of the Ring of Volthoom, the Green Lantern Corps chose her to take up a Green Lantern power ring in acknowledgement of her ability to conquer the fear that had dominated her life. Jessica may be relatively new to being a Green Lantern, but she's tackled some pretty heavy stuff in that time, even being on several Justice League teams very early on in her career. And even without the Justice League, her first real outing as a Green Lantern was repelling an invasion by the Red Lanterns, even going head-to-head with Atrocitus. Jessica's real strength, though, is how creative she is with her power ring, able to take full advantage of the ring's constructability practically off the bat. While her still lingering anxiety may make her her own worst enemy, she's shown time and time again that underestimating her is a bad idea. Number 9, Simon Baz. Now, Simon is a Lebanese American who had to get tough pretty bloody quick in a post-9/11 Detroit, where his family were constantly mistreated. When fate decided to be particularly cruel to the petty theft, having him jack the one car in all of Detroit that actually did have a bomb in it, a power ring visits him in his cell and chooses him for reasons that Simon can't comprehend, but understandably does not question. The League decides to give him a chance, but to make sure that he and Jessica get along while he's off in space, Hal fuses their batteries together. Simon is much more straightforward a fighter than Jess, balancing her clever, if perhaps overly cautious thinking with a mentality of blast it until it goes away. And if that doesn't work, he can always fall back on his handy-dandy gun. Now, power rings are nice and all, but guns, well, they're still guns. Like Jessica, Simon proved himself as a Green Lantern when the Red Lanterns invaded Earth, managing to repel them without the rest of the Corps needing to get involved, and then proved himself even further by taking on Jessica when Volthoom retook control of her mind. Number 8, Kilowog. One of the most famous recurring characters from the Green Lantern mythos, Kilowog has more than earned a spot on this list due to his very hectic career. For example, he's the last of his people and has been a Green Lantern for most of his life. He's the drill instructor, there to turn greenhorns into Green Lanterns. And as one would expect from any self-respecting drill sergeant, Kilowog is one tough customer, able to go toe-to-toe with the worst the universe has to offer, which has made him an invaluable ally for Hal Jordan to have, since he's the kind of backup you can always depend upon. When Hal went insane and tore through the Corps to collect their power rings for himself, Kilowog was the last man standing, and taking him out took almost everything Hal had in him, because when Kilowog decides that you need to go down, there's very little you can do to stop him. Number 7, Guy Gardner. Guy Gardner is simultaneously one of the most lovable and also the most insufferable Green Lanterns ever to exist, and both are for the same reason. He's brash, arrogant, and a bit of a swaggering jackass who'd look God in the eye and make fun of his hairdo. What keeps him from being completely worthless, though, is that he can actually back up that talk. You see, Guy is a tough son of a gun through and through, making up for his lack in creativity with pure raw offense. He's been deemed in the past as being the crazy one, and when you're the only Green Lantern to be able to wield both a green and red power ring at the same time, that title is definitely earned. However, that power does come with a rather obvious cost. Due to his focus on pure offense and the comedic trappings of his character type, Guy is very easy to knock flat on his ass. The most famous example of which is Batman casually knocking him unconscious in Justice League International. Guy is the Green Lantern Corps' eternal heel, but as he demonstrates time and time again, being a heel is pretty damn fun. Number 6, Abin Sur. For the longest time, Abin Sur was just what he was in his original appearance, a plot device for Hal's origin story. However, as time went on, readers were slowly fed more information about him from various writers. It wasn't much, but just from the way that other Green Lanterns and other alien races talked about him, it's clear that Hal had inherited the power ring of one of the greatest Lanterns ever to exist. Why and how Abin Sur was killed varies depending on which era of the DC universe you consult, but no matter what, it was not easy for his assailants. Abin was so overwhelmed overwhelmingly powerful that he created an entire new spectrum of power rings, the Indigo Tribe, and did so without anyone knowing, as a failsafe against the Guardians if they ever went bad, and as an added layer of defense against the fabled Blackest Night prophecy. And whenever Abin Sur is given his own story, such as in the anthology movie Green Lantern Emerald Knights, the man more than lives up to this hype, and managed to hold his own against Atrocitus without any ring of power. Number 5. Karl Raynor. Karl Raynor has had an interesting time of it in the Green Lantern universe pretty much since day one. Posited as the new lead character after Emerald Twilight had Hal go insane and kill the entirety of the Green Lantern Corps, Karl was kinda the most powerful Green Lantern by default. But even long after Hal was turned good again and the Corps revived, Karl is still considered a pretty heavy hitter amongst its ranks. While he isn't nearly as strong offensively as other entries on this list, Kyle, thanks to his day job as a comic book artist, has the most creativity when it comes to his constructs, able to make complex, intricate constructs on the fly, and despite not being the strongest of his peers, his combat skills are nothing to sneeze at. Remember, this dude was the only Green Lantern out there for a very long time, and it's a good thing that the Green Lanterns are the one who found him first, because as was shown during Green Lantern New Guardians, Kyle is more than worthy of the other rings, to the point where he wielded every power ring all at once. Kyle is also the only White Lantern able to wield the power ring of life to defeat Necron and the Black Lanterns. Number 4. Jon Stewart. If you, like me, grew up in the early 2000s and watched a lot of Cartoon Network, then when you think of Green Lantern, you likely think of Jon Stewart. Jon was the third human Green Lantern introduced in DC Comics, a former Marine turned architect who took the mantle of Green Lantern with zeal. Unlike other Lanterns like Guy, Jessica, or Kyle, Jon has had years of intense combat experience due to his history in the US Marines. This naturally makes him one of the last Green Lanterns that you would ever want to piss off, as Jon could effortlessly take you apart long before he even considers whipping out his ring. Hand-to-hand combat training and his experience with firearms already made him a dangerous opponent, but on top of that, his creativity with ring constructs is bolstered by his career as an architect, giving him detailed knowledge of structure that lets him create entire buildings with finely detailed interiors within mere seconds, which is pretty bloody impressive. Number 3. Sodom Yat. It's rather odd, isn't it, that there wasn't a single Kryptonian Green Lantern. Yes, Krypton had a Green Lantern guarding it like the rest of the galaxy, Tom R. Ray, but considering they're the race that produced freaking Superman, you'd at least think one of them would have earned the right to wield a lantern ring. Well, they didn't, but their neighbors, the Daxamites, did with Sodom Yat. Sodom, being a Daxamite, has powers comparable to a Kryptonian by default. Slap a Green Lantern ring on top of that, and you've got a recipe for a pretty heavy hitter. As if that wasn't enough, Sodom has been prophesied to become the greatest of all Green Lanterns one day, but then also bring about the Corps' destruction, so that's a bit of a bummer. But hey, the Ion entity seems to like him, seeing as how he was the host for the cosmic embodiment of willpower, so yeah, he's got that going for him. Number 2. Mogo the Living Planet. Having Marine Corps training, being able to utilize your artist's mind to create literally anything, having powers comparable to Superman, yeah, those are all fine and dandy, but there comes a point where individual skills hit a wall, and Mogo the Living Planet is that wall. Because Mogo is, well, he is a living planet, a very large planet that can even sustain life, and has complete control over every inch of himself. He can shift the climate anywhere on his body at will, he can shift terrain on the fly, and that's before he even uses the Ring of Power. Mogo is hard enough to fight out in space if you're unlucky enough to actually land one on his surface, because you're basically a fly in the universe's biggest spider web. There's nowhere to go and your fate is pretty much already sealed. The only thing keeping Mogo from the top spot is the weird tendency the writers have to use him to show how big and bad the new villain is by having him weirdly defeated or not capable of being able to handle it. And number 1, Hal Jordan. He may not be the most interesting Green Lantern on the planet, but when it comes to raw power, ability, and accomplishments, few, if any, can match Hal Jordan. In the time since he was brought to the crash site of Abin Sur and bequeathed his power ring, Hal Jordan has redefined the universe multiple times over, for better and for worse. No matter which incarnation or era of the DC universe you consult, no other Green Lantern compares, and there are lots of reasons for this, from his resourceful thinking to his near-suicidal lack of fear, but when you get down to it, Hal Jordan is the best because he's the most adaptable of the bunch. There is no situation that Hal can't learn from and no danger that he can't adapt to. He's a natural leader, even able to make friends with a Red Lantern in Green Lantern the Animated Series. And of course, no one knows better how to use that little piece of green jewelry to kick the ass of everyone else in the room, quite like Hal. When Hal has set his mind to taking you out, there's basically nothing you can do about it. I mean, just look at the entire Green Lantern Corps when he destroyed them all in Emerald Twilight. Even when all the evil was beaten back out of him, Hal managed to convince the Almighty to make him the new Spectre, making him somehow even more powerful. Wherever Hal Jordan goes, he makes waves that ripple out across the DC universe, and that doesn't look to be stopping anytime soon. And there we go, my friends. Those were the 10 most powerful Green Lanterns. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice. That's Dice with a C, where I do all of my board game content, live streams outside of work. It'd be great to see you over there. But before I go, my friend, I hope that you're treating yourself well. I hope you're treating yourself with love and respect, because you bloody well deserve both of those things, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? I want you to go out there and absolutely smash it today like you were a Green Lantern yourself. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.